And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today, the week of Who Would Win. We're near the end of the week of Who Would Win. We got tomorrow, and then the speed round is on Monday. So, from James Stein, we have who would win the fight, Escanor I believe it's Gawain. Although depending on the pronunciation, it's also Gawain. But Gawain from Fate's Day Night, or at least the Fate series in general. Now I was wondering, okay, does this have I actually had initially someone else on this for this fight, but then I read the character, I'm looking at the other character, and I'm like, I gotta transfer this to the speed round. There just isn't enough to say this person would be enough to take this other individual on. But that being said, of the 7 deadly sins, the sin of pride, the lion's sin of pride, Escanor, his power is derived from the very sun itself. His means the minute at dawn, his power just starts to rise. His power continues to rise all the way until it reaches noon. And then for 1 minute, he is at his true pinnacle of strength. He is actually stronger than even the main character, Melvis, who is the leader of the sins. The only catch of his ability is that because it's tied to the sun, and when the sun sets and night comes, he's at his weakest. He can't use magic at all. His power is kind of like, it's not broken in terms of like other worlds and how you would compare it, but it is insanely high. Like among his world, it is insane. It's because it's tied to the sun. He is capable of also manipulating fire in many different ways, including just literally flash evaporating a lake just with a swipe of his axe, or just with a sheer aura. He can split people in two with his axe, no problem. He can destroy mountains with ease. He is the lion sin of pride, Escanor. And in a world where you have individuals who aren't inherently planetary level threat, but do threaten, the balance of the world in some ways, threaten things on at least a continental level. He is among the strongest in the series. Gawain is in combat is a master swordsman, but he's not infallible. His armor is tough. I'm not a huge Fate guy, only because I'm not familiar with the series basically. He was, however, defeated by the dragon Volturgan, and was basically among, I believe he was either killed or he couldn't take on the dragon at any rate. All the knights presently, Tora was able to react in time. Still being a devourer of holy swords, he is not only devoured. He's still being a devourer of holy swords. He not only devoured all the light of Gawain's sword, depriving the power in the fight in the process, but he also reduced the glow of Tora's Excalibur to that of a weak bonfire. Okay, so point being, he's not infallible, but his powers are still impressive, and he does clearly take also inspiration from the sun. He has magic resistance, rank B. He cancels spells with a chant below 3 verses. Even if targeted by greater magecraft and greater rituals, it'll be difficult for them to affect him. Riding doesn't really matter in this fight. Now, this is another scenario where he's similar to the character he's fighting. His ability is Neural of the Saint, a special constitution that Sir Gawain possesses. His power becomes 3 times greater only in the 3 hours between 9 a.m. and noon, 3 p.m. and sunset. That's it. It indicates 3 as the sacred number of the Celts due to the skill it boasts of fame as peerless knight who was unmatched during the daytime. Even Lancelot, who was considered the strongest of the Knights of the Round Table, was forced to wait until the sunset to strike what would become a fatal blow, or what became a fatal blow. He claims that as long as the sun shines, Gawain might be the mightiest heroic spirit, even greater than Arthur. Gawain, however, disagrees, saying that Arthur is no ordinary servant, but on top of the servant, blah, 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 blah. So his powers, similar to Escanor, is directly derived from the sunshine. And arguably it's better, but not. So when serving the Lion King during the Camelot Singularity, he received the gift of nightlessness, which makes the sun shine anywhere he goes, even at night, ensuring that he is at the peak of all times. As a servant of Shadel, he later gains the upgrade skill Nightless Charisma, which is the result of the gift that the events of Singularity being engraved into the Saint Graph. Compared to other knights, of the Lion King, who came to their own answer, he is not cast aside in sins. His charisma has E rank, belt, whatever. And he clearly also has fire capabilities as well. So this is very interesting because that Nightless thing is very very telling. So in terms of like in terms of balance. So one of these guys has the ability to literally always have the sun shining. If Escanor had that, he would have been busted. I mean, he's already busted, but you bust him even more. But Escanor's power is always active when the sun is out. It's just at its peak at that 1 minute between noon and 12:01. Whereas while the sun's out, he'll always have power. But the problem with that, saying that he's always going to be at his peak, ensuring he is at his peak at all times, except that's not his peak. Because that's not how the sun works. The sun doesn't change. It doesn't change when like the time period. Unless they're saying that he essentially is like using Nightless, he can have the sun in the position he needs to always be at his peak in. I guess that's what they're saying. Because otherwise, I mean, they're saying ensuring he's at his peak at all times would essentially mean that he's constantly, the sun's in a position either between 9 a.m. and noon or 3 p.m. and sunset. That's generally what that statement should be implying. Just because the sun is always shining does not inherently mean that you're always at your peak. So that statement's a little nebulous. I'm going to assume because they use the term peak, it means that he's always has the sun in the constant position he needs it to have it in, to be at his peak. So that does give him an edge on Escanor in that case, because Escanor can only be at his peak for 1 minute. Now that being said, he'll even when the sun just cracks over the dawn or over the horizon at dawn, he immediately is strong enough to beat on individuals who are beating his fellow knights, not knights, but fellow sins up, and his power just grows with the sun. That's how strong Escanor really is. So just because Gawain is always at his peak doesn't mean his peak is enough to overwhelm Escanor's. And his peak, mind you, isn't their powers work similarly but different. Because Gawain only gets a 3 times boost, whereas his power, Escanor's, just constantly rises until we hit noon. Furthermore, their peaks are probably not created equal. When we get Escanor at his peak, he is a true force of nature. He is something that could literally level cities, could level kingdoms with just a swing of his giant axe. An axe that's so large, most people couldn't even two-hand it, and he casually one-hands it. That's how large and heavy it is. Whereas Gawain now, at minimum, gets to always be at his peak, so he's always going to have the 3 times base increase. So, and again, I say this as someone who's not well-versed in Fate, and scaling is very debatable. Now, because Gawain is not human at this point, he would be, I believe he's I think he's a phantasm. Is that what he is? Hold on. A loyal phantasm, I believe that's what they're referred to. Or noble phantasm. What is he now, anyway? Servant, human, okay, so human and servant. Servants are spirits. He's a spirit. We know the sins can fight spirits. We and supernatural and things along those lines. So that's irrelevant to the conversation. It's like, could he hit him? Yeah, he can hit him. I think because of magic and all that, I think he can hit him. Now, Gawain does though have magical resistance. Where is that thing? Where did you come from? Where did you go, Cotton Eye Joe? Yeah, he has magical resistance, a rank B one. So the thing is though, it spells with a chant below 3 verses, but there's no spells that Escanor's using. He's using his beer, force, and fire. Even if targeted by greater magecraft and rituals, it's difficult for him to be affected. I would say this: it probably nerfs some of the damage you would take from, say, like a fire slash from Escanor, but I don't think it just negates it entirely. I do think there is a limit to how much how much damage he can dish out and take. So ultimately, the fight would probably commence. These two would square off for a while. To be fair, it would have to take place at dawn, like just so we give Escanor at least whatever the bare minimum of a fair chance is. Because if it takes place at night, then even Escanor's screwed. So Escanor, they fight it out, and it would be a weird battle of attrition because Escanor probably recognizes this guy's got some skill, absolutely. But I am the light and sin of pride. There's pride. You mean nothing. Your power means nothing compared to mine. And as the fight would go on, I think Gawain would just be overwhelmed by the sheer power of this individual. It's one of those scenarios that for the first, because depending on where you go for the crack of dawn, it can be 5 or 4, even 4 in some places, but around 6 is usually what we say it's the crack of dawn, roughly 5 to 6. That means there's a whole 6-hour stretch that Gawain has to be fighting an increasingly stronger and stronger Escanor until he peaks at noon. And at that point, it's just like his power just like I don't see a very clear way to win for Gawain because he doesn't really have much in the way of actual of like abilities for like Gawain's skills. Okay, hold on. Protection of spirits boosts his luck. Siege perilous boosts his defense. Seals enemy skills. Wouldn't matter here. Blade of devoted. What about and his saber skills? Great. He's got different blade abilities with some fire-based abilities. Honestly, I think Gawain is kind of outclassed in this fight. The only way Gawain even stands a remote chance is if he can just outlast Escanor. Because by the time the sun eventually does set, now if this fight takes place in say like the North Alaska or the North Pole, place of the midnight sun, well then he's absolutely effed because Escanor will never lose his power. But that'd be stupid. So yeah, I think in a battle of attrition, Gawain can't outmatch Escanor because Escanor's even base power as the day starts is just way beyond, I think, what we see for characters like him in the Fate world. The little I've known about the Fate world, there are much stronger characters than him as well. So yeah, I would have to go Escanor in this fight. He just seems to be built a little differently, legitimately. So I would go that route. But this is my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.